What's up, everybody? It's the Common Sense Investor coming at you with another video. In this video, I want to discuss the call that I had with the DTCC. Now, I called the DTCC immediately after I had uploaded the computer share video, and all I was wanting to know was the chain of custody that these shares have went through and why everybody didn't get their shares. Well, he answered my questions for me after I broke my own policy of don't be rude to them because they are and they are not government entities. And immediately after hanging up, my computer crashed, and like we were saying over in the Discord, what a convenient coincidence. Now, I don't believe that 10 minutes after I hang up the phone with the DTCC, they sent a swarm of hackers into my computer and was attempting to destroy it. But eventually, when I was able to finally get it to upload again, the audio was gone. But here's what the crux of the matter was. First, I wanted to know about the chain of custody of the APE shares. And he got rude with me and he said, let me tell you something. You can't get the information you want off of Reddit. And I said, hold the fuck on, man. I'm not no Redditor. I am a individual investor invested in this stock market, and the organizations that are supposed to be protecting us aren't. And we want to get down to the bottom of it. Do not, and I told him, I said, as a matter of fact, I got a YouTube channel with over 9,000 subscribers. Influential YouTubers subscribe to me, and before the end of the evening, over 1 million people will hear this phone call. After I said that, he calmed down, and he was like, look. We know we're on top of it. We're doing what we can. And I said, what do you mean you're on top of it? And he says, we're aware of the problem. And I said, you're aware of the problem. You're aware of the problem that 8 days after APE is released, it goes onto the New York Stock Exchange threshold list, meaning they could not settle within 5 days that share. And he said, yes, sir. And I said, okay, you're working on it. How are you working on it? I mean, give me something I could take back to the people to encourage them. And he says, all I can say is we're on top of it and we're doing what we can. And I said, okay, do you mind? After he had calmed down and I had calmed down, I said, well, do you mind if I speak to you about a couple of other things? And he said, sure. And I said, yesterday I did a video about a policy called the NSCC 2022-3. And he said, yes, sir. And I said, it was implemented yesterday. JP Morgan sponsored 2 of Citadel Securities funds to the DTCC. And he said, yes, sir. And then he went on to reassure me that there are banks, money makers, and others who are members of the DTCC. And if you are members of the DTCC, then DTCC has oversight of your transactions. And they make sure that all transactions are settled within 2 days. And then he says, and we're getting to a T1 system. I said, well, when's that going to start? And he said, probably going to take about another 6 months before we can implement T1. And then I said, thought to myself, I didn't tell him, if you can't get T2 straight, how you going to get T1 straight? But that was irrelevant. By the end of the phone call, we ended up having a really nice call. Because what he said was, there were people who were operating outside of the DTCC, and that the DTCC had no oversight of their money-making activities or transactions because they weren't members. And we talked about the NSCC 2022-10 and how JP Morgan had just sponsored 2 of Citadel's hedge funds to the DTCC. And he said, yes. He said, now what that means is we now have oversight of them 2 funds. That if they make a transaction, they will have to have it within 2 days or we gonna find the shit out of them. And those were exact words. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me there's bad actors out there outside of the DTCC, and what y'all are trying to do is lasso them in to where y'all can have oversight over them. And he said, yes, sir. He said, that's what the problem has been. And I told y'all this in a video a couple videos back where I kind of like acted like Bigums here because I was in a hurry and I wanted to get the message out to y'all. But it was exactly, he explained it exactly what I thought. that there were bad actors. These people would send their money to a market maker and they could never get the shares. And they were the ones complaining to the DTCC and the SEC that they were giving their money but not receiving shares. So this was the first step, bringing Citadel underneath the umbrella, or these two funds that belong to Citadel underneath the umbrella of the DTCC. And again, he tried to reassure me, we are working on it and we will get down to the bottom of it. And so I asked him again, I asked him another question. I said, well, what about the New York threshold? APE is on the New York threshold. He said, we're aware of that. And he said, I said, does that mean that since it was put out there, APE was put out there, they don't have the shares? And he said, I'm not able to comment on that. All I can tell you is what he kept saying. All I can tell you is we're on top of it. So it was actually a pretty good conversation with him after we set the boundaries of don't insult me, and I am an individual investor and I'm concerned about my money. So it was a really encouraging phone call after that. And then the computer crashed and I've lost the audio. But maybe I'll call him back. My next phone call, though, is going to be to AMC theaters, find out who their liaison is between the investors, and I'm going to be asking them questions. What are they doing? How are they on top of this with the New York Stock Exchange threshold list? Because that's all they can deal with right now. Because that proved that there was no shares to be given out, that they had more shares outstanding than they could get. And I'm going to talk about that video next. But just be reassured, I'm on top of this. I'm fighting my ass off. Why? Because it's my money. My money. And I'm making phone calls and I'm sharing them with you because it's your money and you need to know. And the questions that I have, you have. So we're on top of it. Today's a new day. It looks like we are up in the pre-market, and which doesn't really mean shit. I've got an idea of how this thing might play out. I'm going to talk about it starting in the next video, where I heard one YouTuber on a live stream say that APE being on the New York Stock Exchange threshold list did not mean anything. And I'm going to address that in the next video. Love y'all. Be blessed. We're going to get to the bottom of this shit. See you in the next video.
In the matrix, they out here wildin' and it's too much, I can't take it. Red pill, blue pill, my mind knew they were shaping. Sound the alarm.